There are a ton of quarterbacks who have come out of nowhere in the 2025 season, but none of them have a better story than North Texas quarterback Drew Mestemaker. Not only is he tearing up college football right now, but he just had one of the best performances of the season, and going back in time, he literally never started a single high school game as a quarterback. Yeah, his story is pretty bizarre, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at how Drew Mestemaker went from a guy with no offers who never started in high school to now being a starting quarterback at the American level for a good North Texas team, and he could end up at a bigger school next year. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about Drew Mestemaker. So in order to understand how Drew got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Becoming a starting college football quarterback is an incredible achievement, and achieving that honor after not being a starting quarterback for 4 years is beyond absurd. Head coach Eric Morris said, quote, "Drew is such a great story. He's a guy who didn't even start for his high school team his senior year, and here he is getting the opportunity to play in front of thousands of people on national TV." So who is Mestemaker? He's a player that Morris and his teammates have only known for a couple of months now, and his head coach Drew Sanders had a much better perspective than most. He became the Vipers head coach in 2010 and has been there ever since. He said, quote, "Drew is one of the hardest workers who's ever come through Vandegrift. I've known him since middle school, and he made himself an elite quarterback, and he believes in himself. His first start came in 9th grade, and it was actually questionable because of who he played against. It was a B-side game featuring players not on the varsity team and on the absolute fringes of the roster. Sanders told fellow coaches he had the best batch of quarterbacks in the state when all three of them were at Vandegrift. He said, quote, "I had 2 Division I quarterbacks in the room. Drew has proven he's a Division I quarterback as well, and he never got frustrated, and all he did was keep working." Mestemaker's drive helped earn him a starting job at the safety position, where he became an all-district player. He also served as their punter. Even his own high school football coach pushed for scouts to take notice, as he said, quote, "We'd have college coaches come by, and we'd say you need to take a look at Drew, and we would tell them and tell them and tell them. It just seemed that coaches were not interested." And North Texas head coach Eric Morris was contacted by a friend who would ask him to look at a high school player he thought could be a good quarterback. Absurd. At 6'4", Mestemaker had the frame that would interest a coach or a scout. The problem was there wasn't much to see. At Class 6A, Mestemaker was a defensive back and a punter, and while he was a second-team all-district player, when he did play quarterback, it wasn't much. As I said, it was all the way back in 9th grade, so they would be taking a serious flyer on him. As a sophomore and junior, he was behind Braden Buchanan, who ended up playing baseball at Baylor, and when Mestemaker was a senior, he was stuck behind Deuce Adams, who's a freshman quarterback at Louisville. Drew would eventually realize he had to knock on doors to play in college, and he drove to Denton for what was essentially a tryout with Eric Morris. After the meeting, the North Texas coach offered him a spot as a preferred walk-on. When Mestemaker arrived at North Texas for fall camp in 2024, he was the 5th-string quarterback. Morris said, quote, "I loved what we saw, and I did love the potential. But when he came here, I didn't know if he could process information, and he was here to be an extra arm for us." Rather than taking the JUCO or the Division II route, he chose to walk on at North Texas. For Morris, he's now considered one of the better coaches at identifying starting quarterback talent. He previously rated Cam Ward when he was at Incarnate Word, and he also found John Mateer for Washington State. Was Mestemaker going to be his next guy, or was it going to be someone that nobody ever heard of? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at how he's done since then. When Drew arrived at North Texas, the coaches realized pretty early on that he had something special to him. He would quickly move up the depth chart, and by the 3rd game of the 2024 season, Mestemaker was already the backup. The guy in front of him was a player by the name of Chandler Morris. He was the son of the infamous Arkansas coach Chad Morris, and after spending time at TCU and Oklahoma, Chandler would arrive at North Texas to save his career, and he had a monster season, and he's now helping Virginia football out a lot. I'm sure that mentorship really helped out Drew, as while he was a true freshman, Drew would get a chance to play in 4 total games last year. Drew would get a chance to play in 3 total games in the regular season, going 2 of 3 against Texas Tech, 2 of 2 against Wyoming, and then having 1 carry against Tulane. But everything would change for him at the end of the 2024 season, as all of a sudden, North Texas made a highly publicized and unconventional decision at quarterback. This would happen on January 3rd of 2025. A little-known walk-on quarterback was set to start for North Texas in the First Responder Bowl against Texas State, and Drew had not started a game at the position in more than 4 years. Yet, when the game was over, everyone was wondering how good this guy could be. He ended up having a performance to remember, and all of this happened because Chandler Morris had already decided to enter the transfer portal to find his final school so he wouldn't get left behind. Enter Mestemaker, who now wouldn't be making his first start at quarterback since his freshman year of high school. On the day, he completed 26 of 41 passes for 393 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those 393 yards equaled a North Texas school record for most passing yards in a bowl game, as well as the most to ever do it in a debut as a freshman. He finished with 448 total yards, tying Baylor's Sawyer Robertson for the most by any FBS player in the 2024 bowl season. North Texas in total finished the 2024 campaign with a 6-7 overall record, including that 30-28 loss to Texas State. In the offseason, instead of going after another big-time quarterback in the portal, they would decide to give Mestemaker a chance. Eric Morris, their head coach, said, quote, "I've been blessed to be around a lot of NFL guys in my career, and he has some of the traits that are just as good or better than some of those guys playing on Sundays right now. I think you saw the athleticism, the accuracy, and the decision-making. As I said, Morris has coached quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes, Case Keenum, Gardner Minshew, Cam Ward, and John Mateer." He then said, quote, "I wouldn't be surprised if in 15 years Drew Mestemaker is playing football still." He ended up winning the fall camp quarterback battle over former Miami and Albany quarterback Reese Poffenbarger. Poffenbarger was an FCS star who was a backup to Ward. North Texas is known for having an explosive passing attack, which would rank 4th in 2024 with 328 yards per game, and in general, they've been really good in the 2020s under Seth Luttrell and now Eric Morris. Mestemaker would aim to become the 4th different 3,300-yard passer in 4 years, with guys including Austin Owen, Chandler Rogers, and Chandler Morris. To start out the 2025 season, Drew was as good as advertised. In his first start against Lamar, he'd go 24 of 32 for 329 yards and 3 touchdowns with another rushing score. He was already off to a terrific start. After that, they would travel on the road to Western Michigan. He'd go 18 of 33 for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns, and while he didn't have as great of a game, he had a nail-biting win over the Broncos, and that was huge for his confidence and North Texas's confidence. He then had his breakout game against Washington State, as in a 59-10 drubbing, he'd go 24 of 29 for 211 yards and 4 touchdowns without an interception. He also completed 83% of his passes in that game, and that was the biggest win for North Texas in years. At this point, though, Eric Morris understood that with each 300-yard game and every touchdown he threw, it would increase the chances that he would not have him back next year, and that's because of the modern transfer portal era. After surviving against Army 45-38 in overtime, North Texas would now have a big game against South Alabama. The Jags have been one of the better teams in the conference over the last couple of years, and while they've not been good this season, Drew would lead them to a 36-22 win, including 2 touchdowns and 250 total yards of offense. Going into Week 6, they would now be playing a nationally televised game against a ranked USF team. This was going to be the biggest North Texas football game in quite some time, and I remember it getting a ton of hype. Drew said, quote, "My thing is I just have to trust the process. Who would have thought a year ago I would have been in this position right now?" Yeah, Drew was confident, but that game was weird. After originally being close, there was a couple weird plays that helped USF break the game wide open, and eventually the Bulls won 63-36 at home, and it was extremely disappointing. Drew ended up going 30 of 46 for 336 yards and 3 total touchdowns, but you'd have 3 costly interceptions, which would really not help their chances of winning. The last 2 weeks, though, Drew has bounced back in a big way. Against UTSA, he'd go 22 of 35 for 277 yards and 5 total touchdowns. That was another monster performance by Drew, and then this past weekend, he was absolutely insane. He literally had one of the best performances in school history, as against Charlotte, he went 37 of 49 for 608 yards and 4 touchdowns. The 608 yards he threw was a school and American Conference record, and while that yardage was eye-popping, it didn't come close to the FBS single-game record of 734 yards. That was achieved by Connor Halliday at Washington State in 2014, and then was matched by Patrick Mahomes in 2016 at Texas Tech. Mestemaker ranks 17th in terms of single-game passing yards, and is the 22nd player to top 600 yards in one contest in FBS history. When you take a look at the statistics in college football this year, Mestemaker is second in the nation in passing yards with 2,468, and he only trails Sawyer Robertson by less than 50 yards. In terms of touchdowns, Drew is currently 5th in the nation behind Evan Simon, Josh Hoover, Fernando Mendoza, and Sawyer Robertson. He is having an incredible year, and with him being at the Group of 5 level, everyone knows what's going to happen. He'll probably head to a bigger school. Eric Morris, the head coach, isn't mad about it though. He said, quote, 2 or 3 years ago, I was mad and disgusted about it. You build them up and then they're gone. But I've changed my attitude about it. I'm happy for them, and if that's what they want and they're going to a better opportunity, I can't blame them. Honestly, I love Eric Morris's take on that, but North Texas's season isn't quite over just yet. They could still end up having a really special year, and while the college football playoff isn't likely, it's not impossible either. That loss to USF was sort of a backbreaker for them, but if they can find a way to win out against Navy, UAB, Rice, and Temple, they will have an 11-1 record. They will need serious help from USF, Tulane, Memphis, and Navy, but it's not impossible. We've seen crazier things in college football, and for now, Drew has the best story of any quarterback in the nation. From not starting a single game in high school to now being a guy who could be worth millions in the portal, it's pretty insane to me. But what do you guys think? If you're a North Texas fan, what do you think of Drew Mestemaker? Where do you think he'll end up next season? And what players should I do a spotlight on next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.